It's the Score North Twin Show. Baseball!
It's a Trevor Plouffe Tuesday on the Score North Twin Show. We need Coach Trev to help us through this difficult, dark time. What's going on here, man? So they lose again last night. Carlos Correa pulled Declan and a couple other reporters aside and said, "You want an update? I'll give you an update." And so Declan can explain that. But they're only 3 games up now, 3 weeks to go. They're hanging on for dear life. The Tigers are coming. The Red Sox are coming, Trevor. The Mariners are coming. I mean, kind of. These teams aren't exactly like going gangbusters, but are they going to hang on for dear life here? What's going on with this team?
I don't believe in any of those teams that you mentioned. I truly don't. Each team has flaws, just like the Twins do. You said, Coach Trev, here to figure things out. I have no answers for you guys, but I do know the one guy that does. I got a lot of questions. But the one guy that is the answer is Carlos Correa. Like, he sets everything into motion for the Twins to get out of this rut. He is the veteran presence they need in their lineup. He still leads the team in WAR. How about that?
Yeah.
Sets a precedent in the lineup with better professional at-bats. He sets their infield defense back to what it needs to be. He's a guy that he has to make it to the postseason. That's what Carlos Correa does. They need him back in the absolute worst way. So when I saw that report that he pulled you guys aside, I was like, dude, like, talk about a knight in shining armor. Like, this is Carlos Correa coming back to save the Twins season is a great storyline, and I hope it's true. Like, that's it. That's what they need. So hopefully this is all true and he comes back and looks good.
Dex, tell us about your conversation with him yesterday. Is he coming back to save this team?
Well, he said he has a date in mind, and at the time, and talked to him like at probably 3 p.m. on Monday, before we got to talk to Rocco too. And Rocco even seemed pretty upbeat about him and was able to give an update on him, which is very rare for Rocco to talk about an injured player because he just doesn't ever have any update or want to talk about that. But with Correa, he mentioned that he has a date in mind that he is targeting. He didn't disclose what that date is. This treatment that he's going through is causing him pain where he's literally crying. It's making him tear up. But the process is painful, but he's waking up with no pain in his foot. He's been able to sprint and run. He was coming off from early BP yesterday, so at least he was out there either taking grounders, probably doing some running. I don't know if he was swinging, but at the same time, he started that treatment. I asked him when he started it, and he said last Wednesday. So he's on day 6 of this, and he's not sure if it's something where, like, he'll have to do this every day, even when he returns to play. But he said it's the best he has felt, and it's put him in a position where he is eyeing some date. Maybe next week in Cleveland. This is completely speculation. I don't know. I don't know if it's this homestand, but maybe next week in Cleveland where there's 4 games, and if the Twins can get hot here and Cleveland maybe stumbles a bit, I mean, those 4 games in Cleveland are going to decide the fate of this team in the division.
I mean, I don't think the division. Let's not even worry about the division right now. It's more about getting into the playoffs. I mean, that road trip is huge. Cleveland for 4 and then Boston for 3, get a little bit of separation there. Hopefully the Mariners bats continue to stay what they've been all season long, because that's been their Achilles heel. I don't know, man. This is, I thought the previous road trip going into Tampa Bay, they're a team that's by and large checked out. Like, they're not really playing for anything. They've made some trades. They're always going to give you a good, they're going to give you an effort. Playing in the Trop is always weird. So you split those 2 games. And I thought going into Kansas City, that was the time to make the statement. Yep. They're down one of their best run producers. We talked about it on the show. And then all of a sudden you get swept. Last night I'm out to dinner and the game was on at the bar. And I'm like, is that a 6 or a 0 the Angels have scored? It was a 6.
Yeah, it's a 6.
Like, I don't know, man. It's there's a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on, but they need to figure it out quickly.
What was your opinion of, two things. One is they Bailey Ober on Saturday, magnificent. 1 hit through 7, 83 pitches, a very manageable. I mean, my God, that's near. Dude could have gotten his second complete game pitching like that. And Rocco pulls him out, and then he also flips the order of his relievers, which I don't mind. I mind it in that situation. Like, that's a weird time. I would have done that a couple of weeks ago, perhaps. But then the next day they get blanked again, and it's not an excuse, but they're without a lot of guys. Like when Correa and Buxton aren't there, that lineup does not exactly scare teams. And he melts down and calls them unprofessional. What was your opinion of those two things sort of put together?
We've seen it a couple times now, taking Bailey Ober out of the game with a low pitch count that's backfired on Rocco. We saw it in San Diego when he brought Okert in. We saw it now when he brings Duran in. And he does have the ability to say, hey, I'm handing the game over to two of the better relievers in all of baseball. But I think what a lot of Twins fans will say is Duran has not been good at non-save opportunities. Like, seems to me like he needs that adrenaline. And he doesn't want to be an eighth inning guy. He wants to be the closer. He wants to be the guy at the end of the game. Some guys just have that personality. So like the flip, when I saw it, I was like, okay, where are we at in the lineup? Is it the A part lineup? It wasn't. So I don't know if he ever really offered an explanation as to why he did that. I didn't see it, but it's curious. Again, like I mentioned with Royce, and moving guys around at this point of the season and kind of not intentionally playing mind games with guys, but it does affect your mentality if all of a sudden you're out of the role that you're used to. So I didn't love that. I wanted Bailey Ober to stay in the game. And then let's just have our set guys. They know how to prepare when they're going to come in. I just think that helps a lot. What was the other thing you asked me about?
Oh, his subsequent
the unprofessional
Sunday meltdown.
I don't know, man. I managers do that from time to time where they feel like I need to step in and give these guys a kick in the butt. And sometimes you do need it. I probably would have done it a little bit earlier than that. And then as a player, sometimes you sit back and you're like, this feels just orchestrated to me. And I know a lot of the guys come out and say, hey, we needed that, which is fine. I've never had that happen. And Gardy used to do it. He used to pick his spots and when to do it. I never had that happen. And then the next day I was like, hey man, I'm going to go play harder. Like, that doesn't work, dude. Like, to me, that never did anything. What did make a difference is if somebody in the clubhouse stood up and said, let's have a team meeting. Let's talk about this together. That resonates so much more than a manager that's always in his office. I'm not saying Rocco's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying managers in general, right. They're in their office. They're doing the coaching thing. It's you and the guys in the clubhouse that can really make a difference. So I don't know, man. Like, I feel like Rocco's trying anything, and I don't fault him for going in there and trying to, get the boys fired up. But it's not the answer. Not the answer. Carlos Correa is the answer.
Right. Yeah. That's like a tangible solution as opposed to like whether can you up your professionalism is sort of vague, but like Carlos Correa coming back, well, he ups the professionalism because he's one of the best shortstops in baseball. Do you recall the most upset Gardy ever got in like a yell at the team in the clubhouse setting?
I mean, shoot, dude, we had some bad seasons under him. I mean, specifically for me, there was a time where he kind of like blew me up in front of the team because I was questioning why were we taking a strike in the 8th inning when and every single team knew we were doing it. So you just get like an 89 mile an hour fastball right down the middle. Now you're 0-1. And I'm like, dude, I'm not that great of a late count hitter. Like, I need to be able to be aggressive and to help this team win. And why is it my fault? Why am I getting, put behind the 8 ball or whatever that saying is? Because our pitchers can't hold a lead. Why? Like, what are we doing here? So at one time I was frustrated with that, and I voiced my opinion to Tom Bernansky, who was the hitting coach, and Tom went and took it to Gardy, and Gardy was not happy that I went to Tom and not to him, and then he's like blew me up. But I mean, I think I won that one. Like, that's the truth. Like, why are we taking a strike? Like,
well, part of the problem for you is the face of the franchise took first strikes all the time, Joe Mauer, and it worked because he just to get into the groove of an at bat,
Yeah,
was
look at his
down-
average when he swung first pitch, though.
It was like 450 or something. Yeah, it was pretty good.
So whatever, man. Like it just, but Gardy was more fiery than Rocco. So
Right.
like it almost seemed. And again, I've never played for Rocco. I mean, he was a coach on the Rays when I was there, or in the front office or something. But it seems like when you have to come in and it's not really your personality to do that. I don't know what it does. I don't think it really wakes anybody up.
So what do we make to, because Rocco mentioned that he had a conversation with Royce Lewis before Monday's game, I believe, or sometime on Monday, just of, hey, don't feel like you need to carry this team. Don't feel like you are putting too much maybe on your own shoulders here. And to be honest, Trev, like watching his at-bats yesterday, like it just, I don't know if he's just tired. I don't know if that stress is maybe getting to him mentally and it's then wearing down physically. But he just doesn't look right. I mean, there's some swings from Royce that are just like, wait a minute, like this guy was just look like obviously a generational hitter, and I still think is going to be a face of a franchise and can be a generational hitter for a team. But man, the last 3 or 4 weeks, he just doesn't look right. Do you think that's fatigue? I mean, do you feel like maybe he's putting too much pressure on himself? I talked to him post game, and he's still Royce Lewis, man. Like it's hard sometimes to figure out if this is not. I'm not saying he's not authentic. It's just he's such an uppity guy that even when he's struggling, he doesn't really seem to get too down on himself.
So I think putting too much pressure on yourself is kind of a myth. Like I don't think anybody's up there really saying, "Man, I need to do it. I need to take this team over." Like I don't think he's thinking that. I think he's like, "Dang, like I need to get a knock. Like I need to figure this out." Like it's the big leagues. Like everyone is going to struggle. When he said, "I don't do slumps," loved it, love the attitude, but dude, every single person is going to go through some tough times. The league's going to figure out, especially as a younger hitter. The book comes out. A pitcher see one thing and they just hit the spam. They're spam. Boom, boom, boom. They're going to keep going to that until you make an adjustment. And you have to figure that out. And it's just the chess match of hitting. Everybody talks about it, and it is a constant in baseball. Is you at the major league level, you got to make adjustments. You got to figure it out. And then guess what? When you figure that adjustment out, they're going to find something else. And you just have to be able to be adaptable to it. That's why you see guys so often. The number one thing guys do as hitters in the big leagues is eliminate excess movement. I try to talk about it all the time in the broadcast. I'm sure people are sick of me saying it, but it's the truth. Like you want to eliminate excess movement as much as possible. So then it really is seeing the ball and hitting the ball. You want to be able to repeat your mechanics. So all of that is gone. The thought process of mechanics and timing, you kind of try to take that equation out, and then it's just putting the barrel on the ball. It's just too hard. Guys are too good, especially nowadays with the stuff that they have, the scouting reports. They're able to pick apart every single thing that you do. And I think that's what it is for Royce. He does have a lot of movement, like pre-pitch movement. He kind of like gets down and set early enough, so I don't really think it's that. But if I was a betting man, I'd bet on Royce to make some adjustments over the offseason, most likely, about how I can just really calm everything down. Because when I see Royce, it's always front hip leaking and getting exposed to the outside half. And then, you're sped up inside. You give the outer half away. You start to chase more pitches. The strike zone, all of a sudden, you don't know where it's at. And so, the chase happens. And then once guys see that you're chasing, they're just not going to groove you anything. They're not going to challenge you until you show the ability to lay off pitches. So I think for Royce, it's the acceptance, and he's working hard. It's the acceptance that he's got to make an adjustment. And then it's up to the guys in the cages, the hitting coaches, to, get it in his head. Like, hey, let's try some things over, a few games here, really implement it. And maybe you'll struggle the first couple of games doing it. It's not going to feel comfortable, but it'll get you back to where now you're kind of letting the ball travel. You're seeing it better. It's hard to do that especially as a young hitter, who is still, I don't think he's establishing himself. I don't think that's the right term for Royce, but I think he's still trying to figure out who he is at the big league level.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a position that is not in play and is never talked about until things go wrong. Yeah, that's right. I want to talk about Tommy Watkins' work at third base, I believe.
Wow, here we go. Let's do
All
it.
right, help me here.
Wave him home, Watkins.
He's gotten an inordinate amount of guys thrown out. At times, there's been confusion, and unless I missed it, it feels like it's all come like in the last month plus. It felt like we didn't talk about him, and then all of a sudden it started. Is this a thing where they're struggling, and so Rocco wants him to try to be aggressive with sends? Like they got Miranda thrown out on Sunday in the first on a Larnach double, and it's not like Jose is Lou Brock. He's basically just slid right into the tag, and you can't now contest the catcher. Can't blow him up. You can't go in, So what is your opinion there? Because I find a good third base coaching controversy to be great fun, because ordinarily these guys are just ignored completely if they're doing a good job.
Watkins was quoted also a couple months ago saying, "I don't do slumps." So maybe him and Royce got a little too
said,
haughty.
"I don't do stop signs."
I do stop signs.
I just do this.
Number one, the Twins don't have like a ton of team speed. That's like not there.
Absolutely.
They don't have guys. They don't have burners. So I think that you do have to, pick your spots there. And I think the fact that the Twins aren't scoring runs, it puts his decisions obviously under a microscope a little bit there. I don't mind being aggressive. There's been a couple times where, I think was it Julian who was saying like, stop, go. Like, I think they had a close-up of him at one point when he was.
There was a Kepler one.
There was a
couple
Kepler
weeks
one.
ago.
Kepler, that was it. It was
weeks
Kepler,
ago.
not Julian. It was Kepler.
He sent him, and then he stopped him, and then Kepler.
So I think
pitched
that's
at
what
him.
you want from a third base coach, is just to be decisive, and you got to pick him up early. You got to do all these things right. I don't know if I've had a problem with what Tommy's done. I think I'd err on the side of being aggressive, especially with the way the offense has been playing. Hey, it's great to have a runner on third base with less than 2 outs, but like, who's coming up and what have they been doing? And is it time to be aggressive? The Miranda play in Kansas City, he was safe and he just slid so early. Like, I don't know why he did the head first slide so early. He didn't have, how like Trey Turner slides and he like slides for like 15 feet.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Miranda doesn't have that. He just like plopped on the ground and like barely made it to home.
It was like Willie Mays Hayes into third base in Major League.
Yeah, like he didn't get there. So I don't know. I don't think I have a problem with Tommy. He just looks bad.
Yeah.
Because the Twins haven't been scoring runs, and you get shut out, and we get a couple of runners thrown out at the plate. I just think it's under the microscope because of the offense has been so lackadaisical in their scoring.
If you're like Judd and the third base coach makes you want to punch a hole in your wall, maybe you need KS Drywall to come fix said hole, or any number of other things. Full drywall, plaster repair, popcorn ceiling texture removal, interior painting services. KS Drywall is here to help you. By the way, no job is too big or too small. They will handle anything from new construction to small emergency repairs. You can check them out at ksdrywall.com to schedule a free estimate, or go to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube and check them out. Their crew is very professional. Now, they do say, Coach Trev, Twin Cities Metro and Western Wisconsin, I'll bet those guys would entertain. You said you needed some drywall done going out to Los Angeles.
I got a couple. You had some earthquakes recently. I got a couple cracks in my drywall on some of the points, the creases there. And then I need my garage done. So if you guys want to come out here, maybe we'll do like a YouTube video. I'm just kidding.
Just a couple of quakes. No big deal.
Their work looked great right there. And was that at your palatial estate?
That was Judd's place in St. Louis Park. Yeah.
It's my secondary house.
Okay.
Orono.
Yeah, he calls it a cabin, but we all know it's a second home on the lake.
I've got two houses because I make so much money, Trevor.
Hey, Bailey Ober came up earlier in the show, at pulling him after 83 pitches. So I just want to paint a statistical picture and then ask you a question, Coach Trev. So first time through the order, by the way, he's great all the time this season, like any trip through the order, but first time through the order, OPS allowed of 658. Third time through the order, it's even better at OPS allowed of 656. Batting average given up, 208 first time through the order, 170 third time through the order. Most pitchers are not nearly as good, or they're unusable third time through the order, and you're just praying Bailey Ober is actually better the third time through the order statistically than first time through the order. And if you bring it out to pitch count, he's also excellent pitches 76 through 100, batting average against of 184, OBP against of 260. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, where do you draw the line in modern baseball, or specifically with the Twins, pulling a guy because you're worried about what might happen versus riding a guy that is actually great third time through the order and just trusting it?
This is my pet peeve when we're talking about teams that just go by the numbers. If you're going to go by the numbers, go by the numbers. And we've seen it a lot with this team as far as loading a lineup up with right-handed hitters, even though a lefty had reverse splits, or vice versa. It's like, I thought we're a team that makes decisions, that wants to put their guys in advantageous positions, and the numbers say such and such, and you're not doing it. I think this is the same thing with Bailey Ober. Like, it's almost like a blanket thing. Righties got to hit against lefties. Lefties got to hit against the right-hander, and Bailey Ober and any pitcher can't go third time through the order. And it's not that way. And if we're a team that makes decisions by the numbers, which most teams do nowadays, I think they need to continue to do it. I have no idea why Bailey Ober would do that. Like, or why Rocco would continue to take Bailey Ober out with 80 pitches. I don't really have a reason, especially when the bullpen hasn't exactly been like lights out. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think Bailey, the reason that he's able to do that is he controls, 3 pitches for strikes and can kind of mix and match and throw them in any count. And that's pretty much what you have to do to be able to, get through a lineup 3 times. You have to have command of 3 pitches, and he has that. So I don't know. I don't understand it. It's not like they're really watching his pitch count or his innings pitched or anything like that. And you necessarily can't do that when him and Pablo are like, they've been the guys as of late. You need to win these games that they pitch. There's no rhyme or reason for it. I don't understand why it's been happening.
And this is where Trev, if I'm a player, I'm perplexed and frustrated, and I especially don't being called unprofessional, because of that would really piss me off. But I'll go back to, and it's the double speak here too. So Ober is taken out against the Padres, which we all can question. He gave up the game tying home run. Jax comes in, 10 pitches, lights out. Okay, Jax pitches the 8th, right? Twins are like, no, we don't. And at the time, Rocco said, we're not going to throw him a second inning. Then, like a week after that, Rocco says, you know what, we might start to throw Jack. Oh, okay, so now that's like, well, why didn't we do that against the Padres? And then on Saturday night, he not only takes Bailey out, but as I mentioned before, he reverses the order of his relievers, which is a huge inconsistency for a team that hadn't done that. Like, this is where I'd be frustrated, because my question as a player would be, if I'm unprofessional, what are you when you're telling me things and saying Jax can't throw more than 10 pitches and that's it? And now it's like, and they brought Jax in on Saturday night because of a blind panic. Duran struggled, right? And the goal was to have Jax then close in the 9th. So like everything you told me against the Padres, you just said, screw it. So these are things, if I'm a player, I got serious questions about what you are doing.
I want to see a player get up like Judd in the clubhouse when being yelled at and called unprofessional and point at the manager and say, you're unprofessional. You're unprofessional.
What are you doing? What are you doing, guys? And it's not just Rocco. I will say that. That's from upstairs, too. I'd go right upstairs. Derek, answer the door.
I'm just going to bite my tongue on a lot of things. But I am. You bring up being called unprofessional, and what does that mean in the clubhouse? It's not good. It's not a way to really, get the trust of your players. They're not going to say, man, thanks for calling me unprofessional, Rocco. I really needed that. Like, that's not what you're thinking. You understand things aren't going well. Do you need a kick in the ass every once in a while? Sure. But being called unprofessional is not something that you like. You don't have to like everything that your manager does, but I think the choice of words there is poor.
And he said it publicly. And to me, calling a baseball player or team unprofessional is akin to the dirtiest word in football, which is publicly calling your team soft.
Ooh.
Like there's nothing worse than if a football coach says.
Did he say they're unprofessional at bats or unprofessional baseball? I think was the
yes,
unprofessional series, basically.
Unprofessional series, yeah.
That's a big blanket to paint him with. Like it's one thing to tell them that privately, but like that was his statement to the media.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it. I mean, look, I'm never going to be a manager, ever. Could probably write that down, put it in stone.
Okay.
If I was
Here, hold on.
in this,
write it down.
There we go. Let's make it official.
right down.
In case you change your mind.
Maybe one day. I don't know.
Yeah. See, doors open.
Dude, there's the one thing that you want or that I'd want from my players is for them to be able to come and talk to me about anything. I would be the ultimate players manager publicly. I would always have my players' backs. And if they needed a kick in the butt, you go and do it in private. It means so much more if I bring you into my office and I tell you, hey, you know, your bats, they have not been major league caliber. And we need to switch that because this is the big leagues and results matter. And we're a team that's on the cusp of the playoffs. And we need you, to work on something in the cage, figure some stuff out, or the playing time isn't going to be there. You can talk to a guy like that and you can be professional about how you approach your players. But calling him out publicly, like that, I don't think that ever turns out well.
It does feel like a last line of, like a last resort type of thing, right? Where whatever is being communicated internally.
I'm not a fan of that at all.
Yeah. Mike Zimmer did that with the Vikings. He called his entire offensive line soft, and it did not turn out well.
They lost their first game of 2016 in Philly, and he called his offensive line soft. I mean, that's the worst thing that you can call that group.
Yeah. So Gardy at one point called me and Anthony Swarzak and Danny Valencia and Luke Hughes the fun bunch.
Oh yeah,
and you did that publicly, and that was written in the paper. And I went into Gardy's office and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I feel like I'm doing everything I can here. Yeah, I haven't had success yet, but I'm working hard. I said, I'm about to propose to my girlfriend. Like, I'm not out there, chasing girls. I'm not out there going out to bars, or I'm not doing that. So like, I don't want to be labeled as a guy that's in the fun bunch. And I went into his office and told him that. And pretty much immediately after that is when I had a huge home run streak in 2012. They had just released Luke Hughes. And I was like, dude, I am not doing what you think I'm doing. Like, am I the same age as all these guys? I feel like we were unfairly categorized as this fun bunch, which is another, like, you don't want to be labeled as that.
Right.
Might as well call me unprofessional. It's maybe even worse. But I went and talked to him about it, man. And our relationship after that was very, very good. So I think the one-on-ones are just, it's the way to go. I mean, it's like, that's very respectful to do it, to handle it that way.
Yeah. I think when he called, because I was in there when he called you, when he labeled you guys the fun bunch. And I think, and it clearly landed wrong and maybe didn't have the intended effect. His strategy with the media was always, he would light guys up if he felt like there was more to give. He would never light up Nishioka because he knew, like, well, this dude's just he's just not a Major League Baseball player. But he'd light up Danny Valencia because he thought there was a gap between what Danny was capable of and maybe where he was at performance-wise. Maybe it was the same for you, but there was at least a reason behind it. And I'm wondering what level of thought and reasoning was behind what Rocco did. Well, I guess we'll find out if it turns around at some point here.
I know we're not really talking about my era of baseball here, and a lot of Twins fans have just locked that from their memories. Danny Valencia would have benefited greatly from a manager that just went and gave him a hug.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like, his attitude seemed like he needed to get a kick in the butt, but that's all he ever got, dude. He was broken. Like, he needed to go and get a hug from somebody. Michael Kadire needed to go give him a hug.
You know what?
He needed that, dude. He was a good baseball player.
He was.
You know-
Yeah.
You know
Go
what?
ahead, Jet.
And this guy is a far superior player, so I'm not comparing their talents. I think Royce is like that. Royce is extremely cocky, confident, in a good way. He's not obnoxious, but I think he just needs to be told it's going to be fine. If you don't want to play second, we'll work on that eventually. We won't make you do that. But he's been through a lot. And I think part of the bravado, and again, it's not it's not like he's a jerk. He's actually comes across as a good kid. But I think part of the bravado is a shield. I think he just needs a hug and to be told, dude, you're a potential superstar. So if you don't want to play second base right now, you won't play second base. I think you're exactly right. And I think people who don't have great people skills don't sort of get that energy of like, who needs what? It's just sort of a blank canvas.
You got to be able to understand personalities. That's a huge part of being a manager. I'm not saying Rocco doesn't,
Right.
but I agree with you. Like the outward cocky guys, you always want to like put them down a little bit. Let's get them back and not have it. But that's their superpower, dude. Their superpower as a baseball player is the fact that they're cocky and they believe they can do anything. As a hitter, if you have a guy that's like that, fucking nurture that.
I love that.
It's not get rid of that. It's nurture it and let it grow because you need to have that attitude. So yes, like Royce, I don't know if he needs a hug and a pat on the butt, but yeah, I don't think he's a guy that'll respond well to just criticism.
Yeah.
I feel like and Dex, you tell me, like that whole second base talking through the media thing, I don't think it has been good for Royce whatsoever.
No, I don't. I think all parties are at fault here for the entire thing of going about that. And it's just weird.
It doesn't seem like a Royce thing to say, by the way. Like I feel like he probably got fed that.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't get that impression,
No.
but I mean I wouldn't rule it out. I certainly wouldn't rule it out. It just you know this, Trev, like you played and you're obviously still around the organization. I told these guys I made this comparison yesterday. It just the Twins love good soldiers that kind of follow orders, right? Like they love that. And I think when you get a brash young guy who's got some confidence and also has the ability to, I think, be a leader one day, and he starts pushing back even when maybe the organization turns a little bit of a side eye of who are you to say like to question our things? Like, well, I don't know, man. I'm an outsider and I don't like how things are going here. I just think it's a very interesting dynamic to watch unfold between how they treat him going forward.
Yeah, it's crazy that he is like kind of now being like labeled as a combative figure. Like I feel like that's just not his path or his personality.
No, yeah,
like,
agreed.
And it's not good.
Don't turn him into that. Like don't turn him into what's the guy, Harvey Dent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
don't turn him into Two-Face. Yeah.
Like let's just keep this guy on the good side here.
Yeah.
I'll say this though, and I'm not speaking for you, and this is not just a Rocco thing. I feel like the way the Twins run the operation towards players doesn't allow a lot of humanity at times. It feels very, as Phil does the computer sound well, you know? It feels very orchestrated.
Beep, burp, burp.
Yeah, like Willie Castro plays all of these spots. Why don't you? Like, this is how we operate. And it's like, you got to treat, I mean, I'm sorry, but everyone has to be treated sort of differently. Are you a superstar? Are you a blue collar worker? Are you not good? You know? And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of grace for that. It feels like it's very much, this is our clubhouse and this is how we think it should work. I got bad news for you. That doesn't work with humans.
Agreed. I mean,
that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that for you.
You have 20. You have 26 guys. And you know, it's not like there's 26 necessarily different personalities. Like, you know, everyone kind of fits into 3 or 4 kind of, you know, personalities as far as like general type things. And they just need those buttons to be pushed the right way. And then it becomes a team game. And it very much is. And I was just talking to Olivia about that. We're talking about tennis and she's like, oh, it's so hard when you're out there by yourself. I was like, baseball's like kind of, it's an individual matchup game, you know, and it's a team game in a lot of senses as well. It's so you have to be able to have guys feeling confident in themselves individually, and then everyone kind of falls in, and then it becomes a cog. But you can't, like you said, you can't blanket guys in. It just doesn't work. And look, I always say this. I feel like we've been bashing on the coaching staff a lot, or maybe people will interpret it as that, but I don't think we are. I think they do a good job. I think they mean really well, but they've had some missteps along the way. And I think that's okay, because if you're going to sit there and call out people, like, you have to be ready to be called out. I learned that big time. Like, I used to get mad when people would call me out, whether it was Judd or whether it was Dick Bremer. But at the end of the day,
How could you loop me in with him?
that's part of the game, dude.
You did that on purpose, didn't you? I'm off the show. See you guys later.
No, it's part of the game, man. It really is. Okay, have Mike Berardino. How about that?
Oh man, you know the world. You don't realize what you had until he's gone. Mike Berardino, man, asking the tough questions.
Dude, you know what? I gained some respect for him. I did. At the end, him and Ricky Nolasco were getting into it, and I was like, hey man, like, he's just doing his. I don't know. Everyone just needs to do their job, like Bill Belichick says. Okay.
Yeah.
Amen.
Do it
Life
right.
advice with Coach Trev here.
That was awesome.
That's all we have right now. Is just life and theories and therapy until the Twins can, I don't know,
need
beat
something,
the Angels or something, for God's sake.
We didn't ever come up with a solution as why they're 20th in ERA, but second in strikeout rate, third in walk rate.
It makes no sense. No.
don't
But there's still 3 weeks to go. There's still playoffs potentially. We'll see what happens here. Trevor Plouffe Tuesdays on the Score North Twin Show. Part of the famed Fun Bunch. Are you guys going to have a reunion tour at some point, or not in the works?
We should.
Get
That would be
back.
really funny. I mean, look, we're all like dads with young kids now, all married. Like, the fun is gone. We're just the dad bunch.
At the Fine Line, Sally's, First Avenue. You could just find them going around in a group.
I never was going out, dude, ever. I wasn't. Gosh.
Oh man, look, it's still Judd's
I would've
still
been, but-
mischaracterizing here.
I mean, every
Breakfast
once
meat.
in a while I went out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Amazing, man. Trevor Plouffe, John Boy Media, talking baseball today. The Score North Twin Show, man. All right, we'll see you next week, buddy.
See you guys.
See ya.
There he is.